Is NIO going to deliver 30,000 or even 40,000 vehicles in a single month before the end of 2024? Believe it or not, it's possible. I think there are actually a couple different ways this could happen, but hang on, let's just pump the brakes. Full disclosure, I did not intend to talk about these numbers, but then the video I was going to do was focused on NIO with the main brand, the premium brand, and how I think we're seeing a trend. And we'll get some validation on that maybe in the next weeks and a couple months ahead. And then I realized, wow, they actually might really surprise with 30, 40,000 in a month. So hang on, let's talk about this. First off, on screen, I've got Onvo. This is the second brand, and it's the first brand that NIO has come out with sort of targeting the mass market. Now, the L60 is the vehicle, and I know that we've kind of heard internally from NIO that their goal is 20,000 monthly deliveries with this. Deliveries will start in September. I am not expecting a 20,000 number in September. I would like to see, and I do think it's possible that we see that kind of a number by the end of the year if things go well. So with that, okay, let's just call it a possibility that there could be 20,000 of these deliveries in a single month by NIO by the end of the year. All right, what about the main brand? And this is the funny part, is this is the part that I was actually getting kind of excited about. And the video I was going to do has some numbers. And let me start with this. This is the first 4 months in China, the BEV, battery electric vehicles, and NIO's competition, they're looking to take market share from the German brands, BMW, Audi, and Mercedes. And as you'll note here, NIO with just over 45,000 sales versus BMW with just over 35. The other two don't have near the number, and you see it kind of depicted here. You've got BMW, that represents 35,000 of their 209,000 sales. Mercedes-Benz, the blue, represents the ICE or gas sales. And so they have barely, and it's just a sliver of the BEVs. And then also Audi, same scenario, just a sliver. Now, the total of gas or ICE vehicle sales that these three German brands have is over 500,000 for the first 4 months. NIO has enormous potential and the prospects for them to take some of this market share because they don't have to take the majority of these sales. We're probably looking at the premium EV pure battery electric vehicle penetration rate at less than 20% as it stands. So with these companies selling so many gas vehicles and ICE sales, I think the key piece is actually at the bottom of the screen. It's my first major growth phase. And I think we'll get an indicator in the weekly and monthly numbers on whether or not what I think I'm seeing as a trend is actually becoming a trend. And that is NIO finally getting recognized, having that market awareness, that brand awareness throughout China. Now, I've got the insurance registration data pulled up right now. And this is the reason. I want to show you, NIO has only hit a 5,000 or better number on the weeklies a few times. In fact, this is the only time it happened 2 weeks in a row. But if you note down here, at the end of July, which July of 2023 was the best number that we ever got from NIO. And so I wanted to mention this, 5,400 for the end of July. The end of the months usually are the strongest point on the weekly numbers. This was a 4,700 number in that sort of second week from the end of July in that record-setting month for NIO, right? With over 20,000. Now let's fast forward and let me catch you up to what I think I'm seeing here recently. We had the first, oh, and by the way, the best number we've ever seen on the weeklies from NIO is 5,700. So we've never even seen 6,000 on the weeklies. But here's where it gets interesting. If you note here, we had a recent 5,000 number. And at that point, that was the end of April, the last full week of April. So there's a little carryover on this week here. But what we saw here was earlier in the month of May, a really good number relative and compared to what we typically see from NIO earlier on in the months. So here's what I'm wondering. We have 2 full weeks left in May. And in fact, probably in less than 24 hours, I'll be doing a video about the new weekly insurance registration numbers. And I'm hoping we see a 5,000-ish number. Last week, I said I was hoping we would see a 4,000-ish number. Let's see if NIO can come in with a 5,000 or better number. If so, they would have another full week and then another, it's the majority of a 3rd week left in May, which means NIO could come in with a 20,000 type of number, maybe even a new record on the monthlies. But let's look at the monthlies now, because I do think it's noteworthy. If we look back in time, this was the month from June to July, they almost doubled the numbers, but this was the record. And then they stayed above 15,000 for the rest of the year. And then I had said earlier that I thought the first 3 months of 2024 would be the worst numbers. And that has been the case. Now we're into the second quarter, and we started out with a better number than a lot of people were recognizing. But again, this has kind of been watching the weekly numbers, and that's why I thought I was seeing this as a trend. I think the key thing is still what I have at the bottom of the screen, and it is whenever, at whatever point, NIO with the main brand gets recognized and has that market and brand awareness, I do think they're going to take enough of the premium sales that we will be seeing 20,000 and better monthly numbers. Now, if we see this continue into June and July, my thought is those numbers should remain strong for the main brand, for the premium brand for NIO, because Onvo, the L60 orders could have been already made. And so if we see a continued uptrend or consistent higher numbers from NIO with the main brand, I'm not going to be worried about the L60 cannibalizing the sales from the main NIO brand. Because again, that key piece of data in my mind is that very low market penetration rate on the highest, basically the high end price range for pure battery electric vehicles. There are so many sales, over 500,000 sales that those German brands had just in the first 4 months. There are plenty of sales. NIO does not even need to outperform those other companies. They just need to continue to grow, be recognized, and steadily grow the sales. Now, they do have to be able to obviously deliver not just the NIO, the main 8 models that they have with the premium brand, but also the new upcoming Onvo and L60s. And then, of course, next year into 2025, they're going to have the ET9 and then Firefly, which will be another mass market sub-brand. I think that's coming from a separate factory, though. So, look, I think there are a couple ways that this could play out. I think if the Onvo, the L60, obviously gets to where it is doing 20,000 deliveries in a single month by the end of 2024, and that does seem possible. I'm not going to say likely. I'll say possible. We'll call it a 50-50 because we haven't seen any deliveries yet. And I don't want to presume that everything's just going to go perfectly and they're going to be able to scale and ramp and everything's going to be just all great. However, if it does happen, then we'll see bigger numbers and we'll be beyond that 30,000 number, because if the main brand NIO can get to and maintain a 20,000 or better number, well, gosh, that puts us at possibly 40,000 in a single month right there. But even if those come in lower and the L60s are higher, then we still could, and I think should see a 30,000 or better delivery number in a single month for NIO. And the crazy thing is, as I said at the beginning, full disclosure, I was like, hey, I didn't even intend to talk about this until I started looking at things. And I said, gosh, this is definitely doable. This is potentially in play. But I do think the single biggest piece is what I identified several years ago down at the bottom of the screen. That first major growth phase for NIO, they have to be known to get the sales. The brand is still being learned about and known and recognized even within China. And I do think it helps to have Onvo and the L60 come out as well. But I'm just wondering and hoping, frankly, that the premium brand, the NIO sales, will actually continue to outperform the L60. Now, I don't know, but I'm curious to hear from other people. If you've thought about any of this, run any of these numbers, what your thoughts are. That high end, that premium sub-segmented piece of the market, the BEVs, NIO has plenty of opportunity to take that, enough of that market share that they can get to 20 and then 30,000 sales monthly. However, can they do that efficiently and quickly enough that we'll see that, plus the Onvo, the L60 sales, get them to a 30 and 40,000 delivery number in a single month? Again, the best NIO has done. That's without the sub-brand, of course, was just over 20,000. So I want to hear from you. Drop it in the comments. And don't forget to come back, because I will be tracking and talking about the insurance registration number. I'm hoping we get a 5,000 or better number. That would be phenomenal, with almost 2 full weeks even after that left for the month of May.